The ship called Endurance floated in the darkness of space. It was old and broken, with scratches and burns on its metal body. Inside, Captain Ethan Carter sat in the control room. He looked at the screens, searching for anything useful. His crew was small but strong. They had been surviving like this for years, finding scraps and fixing their ship. They were alone, forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. Ethan had heard many stories about why humans had disappeared. Some said humans lost a war. Others believed they had simply left. But Ethan knew there was something more. He had found a message, an old transmission hidden in a broken satellite. It spoke of something called Project Obsolescence. He did not know what it meant, but it made him feel uneasy. It was as if someone wanted to erase humans from history. "Captain, we found something," said Olivia Barnes, the ship's historian. She was in another room, looking through old records they had collected. Ethan stood up and walked to her. She pointed at a broken screen, where a faded text appeared. The message was from a time long ago. It told of a secret plan to remove humanity from all records. It mentioned the Galactic Council and something called the Erasure Protocol. "Someone wanted to erase us," Olivia whispered. "This was done on purpose." Ethan felt a chill. If this was true, then the galaxy had not just forgotten humans. It had made sure no one remembered them. The ship's engineer, Daniel Brooks, entered the room. "Captain, we need supplies. The reactor is failing. We can't keep going like this." Ethan nodded. They had been searching old wrecks for parts, but it was getting harder. They needed to find a real supply station soon. "We have one more place to check," he said. He pulled up a map. There was an old human colony nearby. It had been abandoned long ago. Maybe something was still there. The crew prepared for the journey. The ship moved through space, heading toward the lost colony. The stars shone outside, cold and distant. Everyone was quiet. They all knew how dangerous this was. The galaxy was not friendly to humans anymore. When they arrived, they saw the ruins of a city floating in space. Broken buildings and shattered ships surrounded the planet. It had once been a home, but now it was a graveyard. They landed and stepped out. The air was thin, but their suits kept them safe. Olivia looked around. Her eyes filled with sadness. "People lived here," she said. "Families. Children." Daniel checked a broken console. "I can power this up," he said. He connected a small device, and the screen flickered. A voice message began to play. "This is Commander Harris of Colony Epsilon. We are under attack. They are erasing everything. If anyone finds this, humanity must not be forgotten." Then the message stopped. The screen went dark. Ethan clenched his fists. This was proof. Someone had wiped humans out, not by war, but by making sure no one remembered them. A noise came from behind them. They turned quickly. A small robot hovered nearby. It had the symbol of the Galactic Council. It was scanning them. "Run," Ethan said. They rushed back to the ship. The robot sent a signal. That meant trouble. The Council knew they were here now. As they launched into space, a warning light flashed. A ship was approaching. It was not human. It was a hunter ship, sent to erase those who knew too much. "We can't fight them," Daniel said. "Our weapons are too weak." Ethan made a quick decision. "We hide." He steered the Endurance into the ruins, weaving between broken buildings and old ships. The hunter ship followed, scanning, searching. Then Olivia pointed. "There, an old transport tunnel. We can slip inside." Ethan pushed the ship forward. The entrance was narrow. The walls scraped against the sides of their ship, but they made it through. The hunter ship did not follow. It hovered outside, waiting. Inside, everything was dark. The tunnel led deep into the remains of the colony. They stopped the ship and took a breath. "What now?" Daniel asked. Ethan looked at the old map. "We keep going. We find out the truth." Olivia nodded. We make sure humanity is remembered. Outside, the hunter ship waited. The fight was not over. The Endurance floated in the dark tunnel, hidden from the hunter ship outside. The crew was quiet, listening for any sign of danger. The metal walls around them were old and broken. It was clear no one had been here for a long time. Ethan Carter sat in the pilot's seat, his hands gripping the controls. His heart was still racing from their escape. Olivia Barnes, the historian, checked the maps again. "There's a way out," she said. "It leads to the other side of the colony." Daniel Brooks, the engineer, nodded. "Good, but we need to be careful. The ship is not in good shape." Ethan took a deep breath. "Then let's move." He guided the Endurance through the tunnel, careful not to make too much noise. The walls were tight, and sparks flew as the ship scraped against the metal. After a few minutes, they saw light ahead. The tunnel opened into a large cavern. Inside, they saw something unexpected. There were old human ships, abandoned but still standing. Some looked damaged, others looked untouched. The place had been hidden for years. Olivia's eyes widened. This was a secret base. Daniel scanned the ships. Some of these might still work. Ethan landed the Endurance near the closest ship. The crew stepped out, their boots echoing in the empty cavern. Dust covered everything. It felt like a graveyard. They split up to search. Olivia found an old computer and tried to turn it on. After a few moments, the screen flickered. A message appeared. "If anyone finds this, know that we fought. We tried to resist, but they erased us. If you are human, do not let our history be lost." Ethan clenched his fists. They really wanted to erase us. Daniel walked over. "Captain, we have a problem." Ethan followed him to one of the ships. The side had markings of the Galactic Council. This was not just a human base, Daniel said. The Council was involved. Before Ethan could speak, Olivia called out, "We have incoming." The hunter ship had found them. It hovered at the entrance of the cavern, scanning the area. "We need to go," Ethan shouted. The crew ran back to the Endurance, but the hunter ship fired first. A blast hit the ground, shaking the entire cavern. Dust and debris filled the air. Ethan jumped into the pilot's seat. "Hold on." He lifted the ship as fast as he could. The hunter ship fired again, but he dodged. Daniel rushed to the weapons system. "Our guns are too weak." "We don't need to fight," Ethan said. "We need to escape." He turned toward one of the old ships. "Daniel, can you power it up?" Daniel nodded and ran out. Olivia followed to help. Ethan kept the hunter ship busy, flying fast and low. He dodged between the old ships, making it harder for the enemy to aim. Then one of the old ships came to life. The engines roared and lights turned on. Daniel's voice came through the radio. "We got it working." Ethan smiled. "Good. Now let's get out of here." Daniel and Olivia lifted off in the old ship. It was slower than the Endurance, but its weapons were still active. Daniel fired at the hunter ship, forcing it to back off. Ethan saw the opening. Now, he pushed the Endurance forward, and Daniel followed. They flew out of the cavern, leaving the hunter ship behind. Outside, the stars shone bright. They had escaped, but they knew the fight was not over. Olivia looked at Ethan. "What now?" Ethan checked the maps. "We find more answers. We find out who did this to us." Daniel nodded. "And we make sure humanity is remembered." As they moved through space, a new signal appeared on their screen. A message from an unknown source. Ethan narrowed his eyes. "Looks like someone is expecting us." The Endurance moved through space, leaving the ruined colony behind. Ethan Carter sat in the pilot's seat, staring at the new signal on the screen. It was a message from an unknown source. The coordinates led to a distant location, far from any known systems. Olivia Barnes sat beside him, studying the data. "Someone sent this on purpose," she said. "They want us to find them." Daniel Brooks crossed his arms. "Could be a trap." Ethan nodded. Could be, but we need answers. The crew agreed. They set course for the location. The journey was long and silent. No one knew what to expect. As they got closer, they saw a small planet. It had no name, no records in any database. It was hidden, forgotten like them. The Endurance landed on the surface. The sky was gray, and the land was covered in dust. There were no signs of life, just broken buildings and rusted machines. They stepped out carefully, weapons ready. A voice came from the shadows. "You are late." The crew turned quickly. An old man stepped forward. His clothes were torn, and his face was covered in scars. He looked human, but there was something strange about him. Ethan stepped closer. "Who are you?" The man smiled. "I am someone who remembers." Olivia gasped. "You know what happened." The man nodded. "Come inside. I will tell you." They followed him into an old bunker. Inside, screens flickered with old data. Maps of lost human colonies covered the walls. The man sat down and took a deep breath. "My name is Richard Hayes," he said. "I was a soldier in the last human war." Ethan's heart raced. "You fought in the war." Richard nodded. "We all did, but we were betrayed. The Galactic Council did not want to fight us. They wanted to erase us. They used a secret weapon. Not bombs, not ships. They erased our history." Olivia frowned. "That's not possible." Richard pointed at the screens. "It is. They used something called the Erasure Protocol. It wiped all records of humans. It made the galaxy forget us." Daniel's face darkened. "That's why no one remembers." Richard leaned forward. "And it's still happening. If they find out you are here, they will erase you too." Ethan clenched his fists. "We need to stop them." Richard sighed. "It's not that simple. The Council is powerful. But there is hope." He stood and walked to a locked cabinet. He opened it and took out a small device. "This is the key," he said. "This device holds the last record of the war. Proof that humanity fought, that we existed." Olivia's eyes widened. "If we show this to the galaxy, they will know the truth." Richard nodded. "Yes, but the Council will try to stop you." Ethan took the device. "Let them try." Outside, the wind howled. The fight was just beginning. The Endurance left the hidden planet behind. The crew was quiet, thinking about what Richard Hayes had told them. Ethan Carter held the small device in his hand. It felt heavy, even though it was small. This was the last proof that humans had fought back. If they could show it to the galaxy, they could change everything. Olivia Barnes sat next to him, studying the data on her screen. "There is an old archive," she said. "It was used by human leaders before the war. If we can get there, we might find more proof." Daniel Brooks looked up from the controls. "Where is it?" Olivia hesitated. "It's in a restricted sector. The Council watches it closely." Ethan nodded. "Then we need to be careful." The journey took days. The Endurance stayed hidden, avoiding patrols. They reached the sector and saw the archive station floating in space. It was old, covered in dust and ice. The station looked empty, but they knew the Council could be watching. Ethan brought the ship close. "We go in fast. Get what we need and get out." They put on their suits and entered the station. The air inside was thin and cold. The lights flickered. It had been abandoned for a long time. Olivia led them through the dark halls. The data core should be this way. They reached a large door. Daniel worked on the controls. "Give me a minute." The door opened with a loud hiss. Inside, rows of computers stood silent. Olivia rushed to one and started working. "I found something," she said. "Records of the war, names of lost colonies, everything." Ethan felt hope for the first time. "Copy it all." Daniel watched the entrance. "We need to move fast." Olivia worked quickly. The device Richard gave them connected to the system, unlocking more files. But then the alarm started. "They found us," Daniel said. Ethan pulled out his weapon. "Olivia, how much time?" "Almost done," she said. The station shook. A ship had arrived outside. Daniel looked at the screen. "Council forces. They're sending soldiers." Ethan gritted his teeth. "We hold them off." The doors opened, and soldiers rushed in. Shots filled the air. Ethan and Daniel fired back, taking cover behind the machines. Olivia kept working. Just a little more. Ethan took down one soldier, then another, but more kept coming. Daniel was hit. He fell, holding his arm. "I'm fine," he shouted. "Keep going." Olivia yelled, "Got it." Ethan grabbed Daniel. "Time to go." They ran back to the ship. The Endurance lifted off as enemy ships fired at them. "We're not fast enough," Daniel said. Ethan pushed the engines to full power. "We just need to make it out of this sector." A sudden explosion rocked the enemy ships. A new ship appeared, firing at the Council forces. Olivia's eyes widened. "Who is that?" A voice came through the radio. "Looks like you could use some help." It was Richard Hayes. He had followed them. With his help, they escaped. The Council ships were left behind. Ethan took a deep breath. They had the proof. But the fight was far from over. The Endurance moved through space, its engines still hot from the escape. Ethan Carter sat in the pilot's seat, his hands gripping the controls tightly. The tension in the ship was high. They had the proof now, but the Council would not stop hunting them. Daniel Brooks sat in the co-pilot's seat, his injured arm wrapped in a bandage. He winced as he moved. That was too close. Olivia Barnes was at the data terminal, scanning the files they had taken. "This is it," she said. "We have records of lost colonies, erased human history, and the Council's secret orders. This proves everything." Ethan exhaled. "Now we just have to find a way to show it to the galaxy." Before anyone could speak, Richard Hayes' voice came through the radio. "You did well back there, but you're not safe yet. Meet me at these coordinates. We need to talk." Ethan checked the location. "It's in neutral space. Should be safe." Daniel nodded. "If he's helping us, we need to trust him." The Endurance changed course. Hours later, they reached an asteroid field. Hidden among the rocks was a small station. Ethan docked the ship, and the crew stepped inside. Richard was waiting for them. He looked at Olivia. "Did you get it?" She nodded and handed him a data chip. "This has everything." Richard looked at the data. "Good. Now we need to send it to the right people." Ethan crossed his arms. "Who do we trust? The Council controls most of the galaxy. If we send this to the wrong person, they'll destroy it." Richard thought for a moment. "There's an independent news network on Orion 5. They expose corruption. If we get this to them, the truth will spread." Daniel frowned. "That's deep in Council space." Richard nodded. "That's why we need a plan." They spent hours planning their next move. The idea was simple but dangerous. They would disguise the Endurance as a transport ship and sneak into Orion 5. Once there, Olivia would upload the data to the network. If everything went well, the truth would be broadcast across the galaxy. Ethan looked at the crew. "This is our best shot. Are we ready?" Daniel grinned despite his injury. "Let's do it." Olivia nodded. "We have to." Richard placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Be careful. The Council won't let this happen easily." Ethan smiled. "We know, but they won't stop us." As they prepared to leave, alarms rang inside the station. Richard checked a monitor and cursed. "Council ships just entered the system. They must have tracked you." Ethan ran back to the Endurance. "Then we leave now." The crew rushed to their places. The Endurance lifted off as enemy ships closed in. The chase had begun again, but this time they carried the truth. And they would not let it be erased again. The Endurance moved swiftly through space. The crew was exhausted but determined. They had escaped the Council's forces for now, But they knew more would come. They had to reach Orion 5 before it was too late. Ethan Carter kept his eyes on the controls. He adjusted the ship's course and checked the scanners. So far, they were alone. But that could change at any moment. Olivia Barnes sat at the data station. She was reviewing the files again. The information they carried was too important. If they could get this to the right people, the Council's lies would be exposed. Daniel Brooks leaned against the wall, his injured arm still wrapped in a bandage. He winced as he moved. "How much longer?" he asked. "About 6 hours," Ethan replied. "If we don't run into trouble." Daniel sighed. "That's a big if." Olivia turned in her seat. "We need to be careful when we land. The Council has spies everywhere." Ethan nodded. "We'll find a safe way in. We just have to." A sudden alarm cut him off. Olivia checked the scanners. Her face went pale. Council patrol ships, 3 of them. Daniel pushed himself up. "They must have tracked us." Ethan gritted his teeth. "They're blocking our path." The Council ships were fast and well armed. The Endurance was not built for battle. They had to find another way. Olivia studied the map. "There's a debris field nearby. If we go through it, we might lose them." Ethan glanced at the scanners. The debris field was dangerous, full of broken ships and floating metal, but it was their best option. "Hold on," he said. "We're going in." The Endurance turned sharply and sped toward the debris. The Council ships followed, firing their weapons. Explosions rocked the ship as energy blasts hit nearby wreckage. Daniel grabbed a railing. "This is insane." Ethan focused, weaving through the floating wreckage. The ship dodged broken hulls and shattered engines. The Council ships struggled to follow. One of the enemy ships clipped a large piece of metal. It spun out of control and crashed into another wreck. A fireball erupted in space. Olivia cheered. 1 down. The other 2 ships were still chasing them. Ethan pushed the engines harder. The Endurance twisted through the debris, barely avoiding collision. Daniel watched the scanners. "They're still coming." Ethan saw an opening ahead, a narrow tunnel between 2 massive wrecks. "We're going through." Olivia's eyes widened. "That's too small. We don't have a choice." The Endurance shot forward. The tunnel was tight, metal scraping against the ship's hull. Sparks flew. The crew held their breath. One of the pursuing ships tried to follow but was too large. It slammed into the wreckage and exploded. The last ship stopped, unwilling to take the risk. Ethan grinned. "We made it." Daniel let out a shaky breath. That was close. Olivia checked the scanners. "No more ships. We lost them." Ethan adjusted their course. "Orion 5, here we come." They had survived again. But the hardest part was still ahead. The Endurance finally approached Orion 5. The planet loomed ahead, covered in vast cities and towering skyscrapers. The crew had made it this far, but the hardest part was still ahead. Ethan Carter piloted the ship carefully, his hand steady on the controls. "We have to land without attracting attention," he said. "The Council will have eyes everywhere." Olivia Barnes checked the scanner. "There's a cargo port on the outskirts of the city. If we land there, we can move through the streets without drawing too much notice." Daniel Brooks leaned against the wall, still recovering from his injury. "Then let's do it. The sooner we deliver this data, the better." Ethan guided the Endurance toward the cargo port. The ship slipped past the usual traffic and landed in a quiet docking area. As the engines powered down, Olivia took the data drive from her console and tucked it into her jacket. "This is it," she said. "We get this to the news network, and the whole galaxy will know the truth." Daniel stood up slowly. "Then let's move." The 3 of them stepped out of the ship and onto the docking platform. The air smelled of metal and fuel, and workers moved crates and supplies nearby. They blended into the crowd and slipped through the port unnoticed. The city was alive with people, flashing lights, and massive screens displaying news reports. Olivia pointed to a tall building in the distance. That's our target. The independent news network is in there. If we can reach them, they can broadcast the truth. They moved quickly through the crowded streets, keeping their heads down. But as they neared the building, Ethan spotted something troubling. A group of armed soldiers was stationed outside. The council got here first, he muttered. They must have figured out what we're doing. Daniel clenched his fists. We need another way in. Olivia scanned the area. There's a side entrance. If we move fast, we might avoid them. They slipped into an alley and found a service door. It was locked, but Olivia quickly hacked the panel. The door slid open, and they stepped inside. The building was quiet, the hallways dimly lit. They moved through the corridors, heading for the main broadcast room. Every step brought them closer to their goal. Then, footsteps echoed ahead. Soldiers were patrolling the halls. Ethan held up a hand. We need to hide. They ducked into a storage room as the soldiers passed by. Olivia checked the time. We don't have long. If they secure the servers, we'll lose our chance. Daniel took a deep breath. Then we go now. No stopping. They ran down the hallway, reaching the main broadcast room. Olivia accessed the terminal, pulling out the data drive. This will take a minute. Keep watch. Ethan and Daniel took defensive positions by the door. The sound of boots echoed in the hallway. The soldiers had noticed them. Olivia worked quickly as the first shots rang out. Ethan and Daniel fired back, holding off the attackers. Almost done, Olivia shouted. A soldier rushed in, but Ethan took him down with a precise shot. Daniel covered the other side, keeping the entrance secure. Finally, Olivia gasped. It's uploaded. The truth is out. Ethan grabbed her hand. Then we run. They sprinted back through the building, dodging more soldiers. Alarms blared as they burst out onto the street. The city's massive screens flickered. Then the broadcast began. The people stopped and stared. The truth was revealed. The council's lies were exposed. Ethan looked up, breathing heavily. We did it. Daniel grinned. Yeah, but now they'll come for us. Olivia nodded. Then we disappear. The Endurance waited for them at the dock. As they ran back to their ship, they knew one thing. The fight was far from over.